Excellent. Well, thank you for having me here at the IntellectEU booth at Sibos 2023. I really appreciate IntellectEU hosting us here for us to give an update of what the Hyperledger Foundation is up to over the last few years. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why the changes that we've had with the Hyperledger Foundation over the last few years, why we are a true foundation of multiple projects. We're also going to talk about our brand. We have a new, fresh rebrand of our Hyperledger brand. Talk about some of the new projects. Today we have 13 different projects and over 50 labs within the Hyperledger Foundation that are really delivering what the enterprise needs for blockchain and blockchain-related technologies like digital identity technologies. And very importantly, talk about open source and open development, and what does that mean when you're building important critical infrastructure for financial services, for central banks, and other organizations worldwide. I mentioned that over the last few years, we've really changed what Hyperledger is about. We are a true Hyperledger Foundation. We're an umbrella of multiple projects and multiple communities that work together and collaborate together in different ways. You could see our new branding. We changed our branding for 8 years. We had the same branding, and now we really are the trinity of our community, our projects, and our members' communities as well. Very importantly, we are part of the Linux Foundation. Since 2016, the Hyperledger Foundation has been part of the Linux Foundation, who for the last 25 years have really been critical to building some of the most important open source projects that are in the marketplace. Obviously starting with the Linux kernel itself, but also projects like CNCF's Kubernetes and others in the industry, automotive grade Linux and all. And it's really important to understand the kind of community that the Linux Foundation brings to market. We currently have over 900 different open source projects that people can use. All of the projects are open source, openly developed, and we estimate about $100 billion of shared value that Linux Foundation open source projects bring to the market, and the Hyperledger Foundation is part of that as well. When we talk about decentralized technologies and blockchain technologies, there is no doubt, especially in the blockchain world, if you want to call it that, that open source has won. But it's very important to also understand the difference between open source and open source projects that are openly developed and openly governed under the promise of what the Hyperledger Foundation brings to the market as well. From a momentum perspective, we've been around, we're about to celebrate our 8th year, and I'm here at the IntellectEU booth, and IntellectEU has been members since the beginning of the Hyperledger Foundation at the time. Today we have 13 different projects, over 50 different labs, as I'll mention in a bit, and our regional chapters, for example, continue to grow. We have a very healthy and growing regional chapter in Brazil, where the local developer community is coming together to really understand not just the technologies, but to contribute to the technologies as well. And we have over 100,000 currently meetup participants in our meetup community around the world. So whether you are in India or whether you are in Asia Pacific or Europe, there's a community of Hyperledger developers that get together and really participate in the work that they do. When you think about Hyperledger from a technology perspective, we're here at Sibos. Obviously, a lot of the use cases are based on financial services, but blockchain is a general purpose technology. And across all our projects, we have projects that perhaps are in healthcare or in climate action, a lot of public sector use cases around digital identity. And it really brings a community that works together to collaborate on the core technologies, but brings in different experiences and different needs from these industries, which I believe really makes the foundation and the projects that are hosted at the foundation a much better projects as well. We are a developer ecosystem, so through our foundation we're able to tap into the enterprise developer ecosystem. And this today, has over 40,000 contributors over the last 5 years that have been contributing to multiple projects at Hyperledger, and over 1.3, it's actually now higher, 1.3 million contributions across all these projects. And this once again makes the foundation stronger and makes better code as the community collaborates on it. We are a membership-funded organization, and we have our premier members, Accenture, IBM, DTCC, Hitachi, and Fujitsu that sit on our governing board. And we have hundreds of general members as well that support the foundation and the work that our developer community does to build out these open source code bases and these use cases worldwide. We also have a growing associate members in the financial services community. For example, the central banks have been joining as associate members. The Bank of England and the Boston Fed had been members since 2017, but also the newest members like the Central Bank of France, the Banque de France, the Bank of Norway. We also have the Bank of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and many others as well. And they want to come to our community to help contribute to their use cases, in their case, central bank digital currency. So we're very happy about our social members as well. And so since 2015, Hyperledger has really been the place to shape the enterprise blockchain market with our tools and libraries. And people see us as open, as global, and as trusted, something that they can trust if they're building out on the technology side. If you look across all our projects, and these are our different projects, our 13 different projects that are active today, it really is a point to how the enterprise blockchain and DLT market has grown from the marketplace. From 2016, when the project first launched, there was really about one project to start with, Hyperledger Fabric. Sawtooth came in. Recently we saw an announcement with Bondi Value, with BondX, which is using Hyperledger Sawtooth that Citi just made an announcement with. Hyperledger Iroha, still an active project, and Hyperledger Iroha is being used in the Central Bank of Digital Currency in the Bank of Bangkok. And as we went through, we started, and of course in 2016, IntellectEU, one of the first 23 members actually that formed the project. So we're very thankful that IntellectEU is not only still a member, but contributing to a lot of the projects that we have, and we'll talk about that in a second. So there is no doubt that today's world and needs around blockchain is very different, and I say this quite a bit. You know, we will actually be successful when we don't talk about blockchain anymore, when it becomes just part of the critical infrastructure, and how we're going to go about doing that. In 2023, Citi put a report out on money tokens and games, where they talked about the ways that blockchain technology will be used, and adoption will be obviously through CBDCs, but also through other use cases and NFTs. And I truly believe that the technology won't be talking about blockchain anymore, but about what the efficiencies and the gains that it brings to the market. When we talk about how the timeline moves, you know, by 2017 we knew that digital identity and decentralized identity was going to be an important part of these infrastructures and these systems building. So Hyperledger Indy was one of our first projects that we came in. We also got a notion that the Ethereum ecosystem at the time was still pretty young, but the Ethereum virtual machine was going to be of interest to the enterprise, and our first project was Hyperledger Burrow, which was a Tendermint framework using the EVM, and that EVM code base is actually still used today with some EVM compatibility with Fabric. And Hyperledger Quilt was a contribution by Ripple for their Interledger Java protocol, where we knew interoperability. It wasn't going to be one blockchain to rule them all. We knew that it was going to be a requirement. So as we grew through our timeline, tooling also becoming important with Firefly and Bevel in 2021. Today we have graduated projects, incubating projects, and Hyperledger Labs as well, and I'll talk about some of the great stuff happening in labs in a bit. And this is really important as open source projects to understand the project governance, so that when you pick up a piece of code, when you're building solutions that you're delivering to your own customers, that you understand that the project governance and the way that the project is maintained has healthy, that we know that there's vendor agnostic, that it has healthy maintainer diversity, that it has all the things from a security audit perspective that are needed. And this is really important part of Hyperledger. I mentioned Fabric was the first project that we had in the Hyperledger Foundation back in 2015, and Hyperledger Fabric continues to be the preferred solution. About 38% of the top 100 companies last year indicated that their blockchain projects are using Hyperledger Fabric. Ethereum on this chart here is both Quorum public Ethereum as well as Besu, which is a Hyperledger project as well. But you can see here that Fabric continues to be the upcoming 3.0 release. We just had the preview come out, and the maintainers last year they had 11 different releases. It has an active LTS release that is very well supported in the marketplace, and it's being openly developed by the world's leading companies, including IBM, Hitachi, Huawei, Oracle, and IntellectEU, as well as maintainers and contributors to these projects. So Hyperledger Fabric continues to be used. As I mentioned, in use cases like supply chain, we're seeing a lot of work happening in traceability and sustainability, specifically with things like the European digital passport that is required for EV vehicles and electronic batteries. Also work around traceability around botanical water technologies, and there's a lot of use cases that are using Fabric as a permission network to tokenize those goods and projects as they move through the supply chain, and Fabric continues to be one of the most used to do that. We're also seeing Fabric very well adopted in the trade finance. We call these trade finance 2.0. There were some major, failures in the trade finance with TradeLens, for example, and Retrade, as well as Marco Polo. But what lessons learned have come from that? Because trade finance is really a digital transformation. It is a long-term process. So organizations like GSBN and NTT Data with TradeWaltz have built basically new systems, new trade finance systems using Hyperledger Fabric as well. But we know that permission blockchains are key to a lot of use cases in the enterprise, and they'll never go away. But it's always going to be a spectrum of blockchain needs, both from a public permissioned and a public blockchain permission said. And we've always said that that was going to be the case. It wasn't just going to be one blockchain that ruled them all, and it wasn't just going to be permissioned. So the Hyperledger Foundation has really been looking and bringing in projects that do that. So I'll talk a little bit about the Hyperledger Foundation and the Ethereum ecosystem specifically. And since 2017, as I mentioned, we had a project called Hyperledger Burrow that was the EVM supported EVM. We all know that in 2015 the Ethereum mainnet was launched, and in 2016 the Hyperledger Foundation project was launched as well. By 2018 we were working very closely with the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance to bring obviously the standards into the Ethereum ecosystem, and we still work with them as well. And in 2019 both the Ethereum Foundation joined as members of the Hyperledger Foundation as associate members, and we brought in Hyperledger Besu, which was contributed by Consensus, the company with the Y, who still is a maintainer of the project, and Besu, and I'll talk a little bit about it. And we see continuous tooling, for example, for mainnet and EVM supporting tooling. We see an EVM lab. Fabric has an EVM lab in our labs currently as now, because the customers demand, once again, support into the Ethereum ecosystem as well. We even have a Solidity compiler that was brought in last year, Hyperledger Solang, and the Ethereum Foundation gave Besu a fairly substantial grant to help maintain Hyperledger Besu as a public execution client as well. So for those of you who might not know Besu, it is an open source Ethereum execution client based on Java. It does allow you to either run it as a public execution client on mainnet, and currently about 10 to 12%, depending on which day you look, of the Ethereum mainnet is running on Besu as an execution client, and that's very important for client diversity. The Ethereum ecosystem wants to make sure there's diversity in the clients that run mainnet as well. The Besu implements the EEA specifications, so essentially all smart contracts and tokens that are ERC tokens can run on Besu. And Besu is a Java-based client, which is very interesting, obviously, in financial services. Besu is being used in many financial industries currently who want that optionality to potentially work in a public and private blockchain space. As I mentioned, the execution clients, since the merge, the Ethereum mainnet is running with a consensus clients or execution clients, and the main client is Geth, and obviously we are very interested in making sure that diversity continues to be doing that. A couple use cases for Besu. One is Finality. Currently about 17 major institutions are part of the Finality network and financial market infrastructure built with Besu, and it's a great story. They've been working on that for quite a while. while to do that. And these case studies are also available on our website. Another use case for Hyperledger Besu, and this is Besu and Fabric, and we're seeing a lot of networks and projects that are working with both Fabric and Besu combined together as well, with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the BIS Innovation Lab in Hong Kong around green bond tokenization. We're seeing a lot of climate and green bond tokenization projects as well using Hyperledger technologies. Interesting, and just like to point this out, because we're seeing this as a momentum from a government state perspective, is public permission networks. The European Union has a public sector blockchain, it's called EPSI, and that is a public blockchain that is permissioned from a governance perspective that the European Union has put together. A lot of use cases around digital identity, specifically moving from credentials and educations from one part of, say, from France to Spain. If you're moving, how do you move those credentials? EPSI is built with Hyperledger Besu, as is LACChain in Latin America and the Caribbean, another permissioned layer one, basically a public layer one built with Hyperledger Besu that has permissioned elements as well. And in Brazil, the Rede blockchain Brazil is also built with Hyperledger Besu. So once again, because it has that ERC and the Ethereum ecosystem, we're seeing a lot of adoption in the Hyperledger community around central bank digital currencies. Love them or hate them, they're basically here to stay, and there are going to be a lot of projects. We're just publishing our central bank digital currency ebook that will highlight all the use cases worldwide that we have identified using Hyperledger technologies. And obviously, you know, it's important from a digital currencies and how they do transactions in cross-border. So we have projects with the Banque de France using Fabric and Hyperledger Cacti, doing a wholesale CBDC. We have the Banco Central de Brazil that are using, the Drex is their wholesale CBDC project that uses Hyperledger Besu. The Bank of Norway, the Norge Bank, is using Hyperledger Besu in their retail CBDC project. And most recently just announced is the Reserve Bank of India that is leveraging Hyperledger Fabric for their experimentations. So many of these are in different stages. Some are in production, like the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Eastern Caribbean Bank is in production with Hyperledger Fabric. Some are in experimental phases, but we're seeing Hyperledger continuously worldwide being selected and adopted. And it's because it's being openly developed, open governance under the Hyperledger Foundation, and that enterprise-grade developer community that we're able to bring to the market. And when you're building critical infrastructure, the central banks and everybody else wants to make sure that they're using technology that's openly developed. And once again, we'll be launching the ebook soon. Even here at Swift, if you've seen some of the announcements that Swift has made, their CBDC sandbox, which supports multiple DLTs in phase 1 and phase 2, is using Hyperledger Firefly, which is one of our projects in the tooling section that I talked about, that are really driving the ease of using DLTs and doing interoperability between projects. So we're very excited about Hyperledger Firefly being part of that as well. Interoperability, you know, I mentioned it's blockchains of blockchains. It's not going to be one blockchain to rule them all. These networks need to interoperate, need to talk to one another. And certainly projects within the Hyperledger family and even outside the Hyperledger Foundation family, for example, R3's Corda or Quorum, these networks do need to interoperate. So we're working on quite a bit, making sure that, once again, enterprise-grade tools. So Cacti is one of our projects, and think of it as a SDK of SDKs of how it is used, and it's really focused on cross-chain transactions and automatic swaps, which is just needed both in public and permissioned blockchains as well. We do have two very interesting, I mentioned the labs before, we have two very interesting labs that have been contributed to Hyperledger that are part of what I would say the interoperability family. One is UE, which is the IBC with the Cosmos protocol, and the other was a recent contribution this spring from R3 called Harmonia. So we're very excited about having the R3 community working in the open under the Hyperledger Foundation Labs ecosystem as well. Just a use case with the Asian Development Bank where they're using Hyperledger Cacti, working with the Asian Development Bank, Fujitsu, Consensus, and Seramitsu. So it's a combination of Ethereum, Iroha and Fabric, and using Cacti for that use case for cross-border security settlements. Hyperledger does a lot of work also in the identity space. I said I have 13 projects. I can go on for hours if you guys want me to. But identity is really important if you think about connecting these systems and connecting the users and the institutions with verifiable credentials. So we have Hyperledger Indy, which essentially is a purpose-built DLT for identity use cases. Hyperledger Aries that can run pretty much on any DLT or non-DLT use cases as well. It's a wallet for digital identity. And NonCred's our newest project, which is a protocol for verifiable credentials that once again could run on any platform within Hyperledger or outside Hyperledger as well. So really making the community of experts working in the space together. I mentioned Firefly as part of the Swift Sandbox project. Firefly is a supernode. Think of it as middleware, and it is an open source project that came in 2020, and it connects not only Hyperledger projects, but also outside of the Hyperledger ecosystem, including Quorum, R3 Corda, Optimism, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Polygon, and many other public chains as well. And it really is a great addition to us. So today's Hyperledger Foundation, we are truly a multi-project and multi-communities worldwide. And you can see here that it really is meeting the needs of today's enterprise. It's not just about one thing, and we're working with companies worldwide in different industries, and many of the companies here at Swift have implementations either already in production that are using Hyperledger technologies, or a lot of the newest projects that they're coming around tokenizations of securities. For example, Citi just made an announcement yesterday around a tokenization project, and that is powered by Hyperledger Besu as well. And of course, I'm here at IntellectEU's booth, and I'm very thankful once again for IntellectEU's support of the Hyperledger project since 2016. IntellectEU's CEO, Hannah Zubko, has been part of our community from the start, as many of the employees have been. She has served on our governing board as representative of the general membership, and has really been a leader in the space around understanding enterprise blockchain and communicating and educating the market. So we're so grateful for IntellectEU. And they understand that it is a multi-blockchain ecosystem. They're supporting with IntellectEU's Catalyst Blockchain Manager both Fabric and Besu, so you can go to work with IntellectEU to bring these tools into your organization, into your networks much quicker than perhaps in the past. So I encourage obviously everyone to talk to the IntellectEU team here as well. We are driving enterprise adoption. That's our goal. We do a lot of events. We do a lot of content. Please check out our blog. Once again, we are a developer ecosystem, so if you want to hear what the developers really care about and what they're working on, come to the Hyperledger Foundation website, come to our blog, come to our webinars and our meetups, and really understand. We now are tracking over 180 use cases worldwide using Hyperledger technology in our tracker, so you can go to hyperledger.org under Learn and see the tracker, and you can find out about across all industries how they're using technology. And the ecosystem is big. It's not just about Hyperledger and the 13 projects and the 50 labs and the hundreds of general members that are part of our community. We really understand the DLT landscape and make a decision. So this summer we launched our Hyperledger DLT landscape that gives you a view into what the market is working on as well. Join our community. We're on Discord. We have very active Discord channels. Join our community, our meetups, our webinars, and obviously join as a Hyperledger member if you want to help support the work that we're doing at the Hyperledger Foundation, bringing these best-of-breed technologies in the enterprise. I welcome you to join and join us at the Hyperledger Foundation. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to talking to you.